Welcome to On the Bench. I'm your host for this episode, Brendan Sonone. Sonone? How do I say my name, guys?
Figure it out.
Fire Sonone. Joined by Chris Nee, Zach Blaustein. We got a action-packed episode for you today. Going to get into a lot of transaction stuff, commitments, players being retained. Transfer portal opens up soon. So that's what Chris, Zach, and I are going to touch on here. For our podcast listeners, the back half of this podcast, our X's and Knowles brethren posted a video on our YouTube feed on Thursday evening previewing the spring game, or what's it called, Chris? Not a spring game, spring showcase.
Spring showcase.
You're showcasing. It's not a game. It's a showcase. And that will be added to the back end of this podcast, 45 minutes. So they're going to kind of preview some storylines, things like that. Pretty entertaining. But for you guys who are like driving to Tallahassee either Friday evening, Saturday morning to be at the showcase, you will have a little bit more listening. This will be a podcast, again, focuses on the transaction. Before I go any further, I want to give a shout out to our sponsors, Chattanooga Whiskey, the 111 proof, just setting the standard for what a cask strength bourbon should be at an affordable price. They had a special experiment release with a honey infused whiskey out that sold out. I think it's gone. So if you wanted it and you like something sweet, sorry, you got to act fast when they drop something cool like that, because it doesn't last long. But their rye is exceptional. They have all sorts of great stuff that Chattanooga Whiskey is doing. You can purchase them in all sorts of local stores in the state of Florida and the region of the Southeast, or go to sealbacks.com. And that's a good place as well to go ahead and get their product. Today is the last day, or tomorrow, I guess, is technically the last day that we're doing our joint promo with the Battle's End. They've apparently had a ton of success in their donor match program, and part of that is a 1 month free with Knowles 24/7 subscription. So I would recommend you guys, if you want to be involved, help out Florida State athletics, help out Florida State players, be part of that. We are part of that process as well here at Knowles 24/7, are giving you guys a free month, and we'll give you a comp after that ends on April 15th. And also, shout out to the Turner Group, Buyer Sonone sponsors. We'll play a little Buyer Sonone as well. So let's get into it, gentlemen. FSU got a commitment on Thursday evening from a visitor. A little bit of a surprise commitment, I would say, just based on where the visits were kind of trending in general, and seeing the franticness of Chris and Zach. I combined your guys' names there. When it happened and we worked together to get the news up, it added a little bit of juice, a little enthusiasm into the day on Thursday evening. And that was Lawayne McCoy, the 4-star athlete from Miami Central, powerhouse in South Florida. He's got a 91 overall grade by 24/7 Sports, top 200 player. Andrew Ivins did a scouting report on Knowles247.com, and he's very high on Lawayne McCoy. Zach, I'll start with you on this. What were your thoughts when you found out he committed, and what's running through your mind when you get the news as he leaves the Moore on Thursday evening?
Yeah, I mean, it was a little bit surprising, honestly. I didn't know that he was going to do that beforehand, admittedly. And he, I guess we had gotten word the day before Dane had confirmed with Lawayne that he was going to make it to campus on Thursday to watch Florida State's spring practice, the last one before the spring showcase. And I asked, a source early that morning on Thursday, kind of, where does he kind of stay on the board? Is he a take? And I was told he was. So that was, the first time I had heard that throughout his recruitment. And then obviously, 8 hours later or whatever, he ends up committing to FSU. Just comes out of the Moore Center and basically says it in his first sentence to the media. So that was pretty cool. And Did
you just walk out and be like, I'm committed? Did you just scream it?
Yeah, he screamed it.
Wow.
No, but great interview. That's up on Knowles 24/7. We talked to him for like 4 or 5 minutes afterwards and just kind of broke down the decision. But yeah, he's a playmaker. What do you like about his game, Brendan?
I'm pulling up his film right now, going to go to full screen. He is really fast and really long. And by long, I mean he has like a 6'5" wingspan and a 6'1" body. Very, very fast straight line speed. But you see him do some quick slant stuff, or even when he plays defensive back, which I know Ivins likes him a lot as a defensive back. Honestly, watching the highlights, yeah, man, I'd see an NFL caliber cornerback or safety there between the arm length and then just the way he breaks on the football. But look at the play that just showed up there with the slant with him going to dive and get it. He has this just absurd catch radius. He has some natural athletic tools Two of them are just a very like instinctive player. You see him pick the ball off there. Probably don't need to throw the ball before you cross the pylon there. Not the best thing to do, but yeah, probably a fumble. But no, he makes a lot. He's just a very natural athlete, and I think the deep speed shows up on film. I would like testing numbers on that to kind of confirm what the eyes see, but this is my third time watching through here, and I think I see something like different every single time, and like just it gets a little bit better. And slider build has some room to grow and to develop and to fill out, but he is a fast wide receiver. Don't let 6'1" fool you. That catch radius, as you just saw right there, if you're watching this on YouTube, it is impressive. So I like his game a good deal. I think we're about right where we have him. 24/7 Sports with the rankings. We're a little higher on him in the industry. Chris, I'd like to get your thoughts as well on McCoy's game and just generally like what stands out to you. Are you team wide receiver or team DB?
I like athletes, and they can put them wherever they think they fit best. He can play both sides. He does stand out defensively a little bit more on film than offensively, but I think a lot of the athleticism that you see, the catch radius, the ability to get off the ground, the ability to stretch the field, the ability to get down the field quickly, I think all of that translates well to wide receiver. If I recall correctly, he was at FSU's elite camp last summer in early June, and that was a pretty competitive event that had a lot of guys that are going to be part of this football team, both in last year's class and this 24 class, and he was a guy that stood out among that bunch. So, when FSU is able to kind of have the testing of the goods to say, I think usually they feel pretty good about what they're getting with guys, and I think that's certainly the case with Lil Wayne.
They also worked him out at that FIU camp down in South Florida that Mike Norvell attended along with the rest of FSU staff last June, I believe. And he was apparently a standout, according to Andrew Ivins, at that camp. And as a guy that got it, kind of saw his recruitment take off because of his performance there. I think Ole Miss offered that day, and FSU was quick to offer within the next few weeks. Telling the story of this recruitment a little bit, basically, Florida State was kind of the first in-state school to really take a look at him, one of the major in-state schools. And I think that honestly made a huge difference. Miami didn't offer him until this year, a few months ago. And, they got him on campus plenty of times this spring. And it seemed like, according to reports down there, that they were, creating some momentum in his recruitment. But then he comes up to Florida State on Thursday and, decides to end things and commit to FSU. I'd probably bet money that we see him back on Miami's campus at some point, right? He's at Miami Central. It's not a far drive, and Miami's going to continue to push there. But it's a really good sign that FSU is able to go in Miami's backyard and get a guy that Miami absolutely wanted. I think Gabby Urrutia posted on their board. I saw it on our board. Essentially that Miami was a little caught off guard and a little surprised by the decision, which is always good.
That happens to Miami, not frequently, but not infrequently, where they're feeling pretty good on stuff, and it doesn't always break that way. It's been not a theme, but it has happened a few times here. I'm
not creating any beef, but I think
you brought up the message board post.
Well, I'm just saying, I'm bringing up facts. You're bringing up, you're just trying to create beef. But I think Lil Wayne McCoy is a great get for FSU. I kind of agree with Brendan. I think maybe defensive back is where he's got the highest ceiling, just because of that length and his ability to close on the football. You see it on a few of these plays if you're watching with us on YouTube. And
yeah, the last minute has been pretty eye-opening, illuminating watching this. Oh yeah, the defensive clips to me are just
he can come downhill. He's got a slender frame, but he's a guy that's not afraid to go find the football. And yeah, I think FSU they're adding a ton of uniquely talented prospects in the receiver class, right? They got 3 guys now committed in Lawayne McCoy, Camden Fryer, and Mr. Tawaski Abrams, the speedster. And I'd expect them to continue to add receivers in this class.
What just happened on that play? I know this isn't a great podcast. If you're watching, what? You can rewatch it. Did he not get loose?
I think so.
So right. I think maybe someone lateraled it, but just there's a lot of athleticism that's pretty that stands out. Again, the defensive clips are fun, but they do like him as a wide receiver. Zach mentioned the different types of skill sets in the wide receiver room right now. This is 3 commitments. I do think it's noteworthy that Tawaski Abrams has not been on campus this spring. He will not be at the spring game. either. So I don't know what's up with that. I mean, South Florida could just be South Florida in a little bit.
Hey,
Sorry,
Fort Myers is
I'm
not
talking
kind
to-
of South Florida.
I know I'm talking to a South Florida boy here. But anyways, I mean, he's considered commitment. I'm not trying to stir anything up. We follow trends, right? And that is noteworthy. But you have him with his deep speed. Camden Fryer is very just smooth in how he plays. Plays bigger than what he's listed at as well. Goes up and gets the ball. Very quick, but has some vertical speed. Is well-rounded. And now with Lawayne McCoy, I think you see this like high upside take, right? Where you have this catch radius, you have the deep speed, you have a level of like where he just has these like innate like natural ball skills too, and still room to grow physically and kind of polish him as a wide receiver if that's where he ends up for you. But he's an upside guy. He's a true high-end ceiling, like has some NFL skills that will play. So close this out as we're done with the film here. Yeah, they have an interesting like body type and assortment of body types right now at wide receiver. I think that's noteworthy. And we thought maybe about 4 or 5 wide receivers in this class. This is about 3 right now. So yeah, they're still in it with several others as well. But that group in that room is coming together nicely. Let's see. Moving on. Happened earlier in the week on Tuesday morning. We got news of it, or word of it, and reported on it. But also, I guess it happened on Monday where he found out, and that's that big Meech, Dimitri Emmanuel, is returning for another season at Florida State. That was the hope. They had applied for a waiver. The first waiver was denied. They had to appeal it. Florida State got word at the beginning of the week that Big Meech was indeed going to be allowed to get a 7th season of eligibility. I believe Chris, it was from a 2018 injury for Big Meech.
I think that's what he said. He was chatting about it on, I think it was Tuesday after practice and stuff. I believe that's what it came down to.
Yes.
Was the season that he lost.
So it's a medical red shirt basically that he's getting reactively pro. I don't know, but he's getting it. He comes back to the offensive line room, and I want to get your thoughts on just like what this means for the collection of offensive linemen Florida State has, depth, experience, all that good stuff.
Well, that's a starting guard. I mean, it's that simple. He's a guy that's played a ton of snaps in the college game, a decent amount of snaps at Florida State, started at guard, large body, very physically ready to play the game. I think he's 23 or 24 years old at this point. So he's obviously a guy who's matured into his body, and, he's much further along than some of those youngins in the room who are 18 or 19 years old. That room is too deep. We've talked about it some throughout the spring, but the return of Meech, an additional year of Meech.
Sorry, Chris, TOO deep or TWO deep?
2, 10 total guys that you can trust at any point in time at both positions.
It's also TOO deep.
No such thing.
Well, I think
they can figure that out if they want to, but there's no such thing. I mean, after covering a program where they routinely had 3 to 5 offensive linemen who were worth it's very nice to have the problem of potentially having 8 to 10 that are very good. So
to paraphrase The Wire, that sounds like one of those good problems. I mean, that's
right.
Yeah.
It is going to be interesting. I mean, you bring Keandre Jones in, he's a guy that can play guard. You bring Casey Roddick in, a guy who can play center or guard. And then you also have obviously Meech coming back. You have Jeremiah Byers, who I think will be a tackle, but could also play guard. You have a whole lot of options that can play on the interior, and a lot of them are upperclassmen, older guys, as well as some of those younger guys like Bryson Estes, for example, Zane Herring, who's played the spot previously, some others in that room. So, yeah, is it too deep, TOO deep? Yeah, it probably is, and that will sort itself out, but I'm not worried about it at the top. I think they're going to retain a decent amount of guys that are too deep, TWO deep, guys that can help you in the football season. And Meech is a big piece of that, adding it back in. The nicest thing is he's a well-liked guy who's a leader. He's comfortable in that room. And, you can never have enough of that.
I think that's the headline. Big Meech. I think that's the headline of the podcast. TWO deep or TOO deep.
It's funny. I can know what we're talking about and then know that Brendan's going to use that as the headline for the pod.
Why do you think that?
I just know how your mind works.
Brilliantly?
It's a brilliant mind.
It is a mind. Went through, counted up total snaps between the transfers that Chris mentioned earlier, Maurice Smith, Robert Scott, Darius Washington and Bless Harris, who's been excellent this back half of the spring. He's pushing strong for King of the Spring, fellas. He's making a very late bid. 1,500, maybe it's a little bit short of that career snaps. I think it's like 15,000 career snaps. I misspoke. It's like 14,900 and something career snaps between those 8 players. And a lot of those are good snaps too. Not all of them are good, like some of the earlier stuff for FSU linemen when they were young in those homegrown products, but more recently been serviceable. And so you have 8 players that have a ton of experience, some good experience, and that's just it. It is a far cry from where it was 6 years ago, certainly even 3 years ago when the staff first got here. FSU has depth. You want to make sure you always have an abundance of depth, both on the offensive line and defensive line. Very much so a blueprint that the Philadelphia Eagles have used successfully recently, where you almost over-invest in it, where you basically are taking out like a life insurance policy that's probably worth too much. Like if I die, I'm probably worth too much dead, where maybe some people want me dead. I don't know. But yeah, FSU's offensive line in a really good spot here exiting spring with the news of Dimitri Emmanuel, Big Meech, coming back. Let's go back to some recruiting items real quick, Zach. There was a lot of drama somewhere in between that earlier this week with Luke Kromenhoek. We talked about him visiting Penn State last weekend. We discussed it earlier on the podcast. At the beginning of the week, since that conversation occurred where he said, there's nothing to really worry about, Steve Wiltfong caught up with Luke Kromenhoek about the Penn State visit, and paraphrasing here, but basically Luke says, yeah, that was kind of what I didn't want to happen, where it's given me a lot to think about. Not exactly what you want to hear if you're a Florida State fan. What's going on with Luke Kromenhoek? How are you feeling, Zach, about it today now that you have a little bit more of that information on your plate?
Yeah, well, I do think Penn State really is giving him something to think about. I'll kind of delve into some of what he said to Steve Wiltfong that you know in the article you mentioned. He talked about he was there over this past weekend, and he said the visit was great and has given me a lot to think about. He was also at Penn State for their whiteout game last fall. I think I mentioned this before, but the main connection is through his mother's side of the family. I think they're big Penn State fans. And I think, prior to the Penn State visit, they really wanted to make sure that they're making the right decision on Florida State, communicated it with FSU staff completely. This wasn't a thing that where they went behind this FSU's back or anything like that to go on this visit. Completely communicated it. FSU okayed it. They went up there. And I think, James Franklin and that staff did a really good job with him. Luke Kromenhoek will make it back to Florida State's campus this weekend. And obviously FSU's goal has to be to kind of shut the door on Penn State. That's got to be the goal of getting Kromenhoek and his family back in Tallahassee this weekend. And I think, Florida State, Kromenhoek's been committed forever. He's a guy that FSU really took a chance on early before he had even taken a single starting snap of varsity football at quarterback. Right? He was playing different positions under Holden Gariner. He was behind Holden Gariner, the Auburn quarterback now, who was at the same high school as him a few years ago. And, FSU had him throw at a camp and took a chance on him. And I think that's probably going to pay off, but, I guess you never know, right? Florida State's got a battle here. Penn State's, they've got a really good recruiting staff. James Franklin is a coach that's a really impressive dude and a guy that recruits really well. And that staff does as well. And he has a great relationship with multiple of those guys. So getting Luke back on campus this weekend is going to be huge for Florida State, I think. And they got to work on trying to shut the door on Penn State.
Shut the door. Sorry. That
part
just stuck out to me.
Hold the door.
So just to add to that, Zach did a great job. Penn State's also heavily in it with a kid named Van Byrne, who's from Virginia, Maryland, somewhere up in that area.
Sounds like a player who's going to commit to Penn State. A Van Byrne playing quarterback Penn State?
Yeah, and I think they feel pretty good about it. Now, does that mean they would say no to Luke? I don't think so. But I feel like Luke is more to Hail Mary for them. Take a shot because he is a trending, ascending guy. Van Byrne in himself is a good quarterback, but Luke is probably a higher upside, higher ceiling kid. And you do have a family attachment there with mom. So, go ahead and make that play. But I think Zach summed it up really well.
Let's talk about, we're currently confirming names. Chris's head is down a lot during this podcast. It's because he's working to confirm different names who we believe will be on campus. It's a building, evolving list here on Friday morning. Let's go through real quick the 5 guys that maybe, I'll let you guys kind of ping pong back and forth until we get to 5. The 5 most noteworthy names are the ones you're most interested in. Luke Kromenhoek, maybe don't add him to that. We just talked about him, but obviously him coming to campus and the possibility of shutting the door, holding the door on Penn State would be big. But Zach, I'll start with you. Bidding starts with you. Who's the most important or intriguing player coming to campus this weekend?
Honestly, I'm going to start with another commitment, and that's a guy that also was on another school's campus last weekend, and that's 5-star or 4-star running back, depending on what ranking you look at.
We always use the highest.
Cam Davis, and he's the guy that's been committed to FSU for forever, it seems like, since February of 2021, and he was, he's been visiting schools, other schools throughout his recruitment over the last 2 years or so. But most recently, he was on campus at UF. This was pretty noteworthy because, after Cam Davis's legacy weekend visit to Florida State, he said he was really close to shutting things down. I do believe that's still the case. I think Cam Davis is heavily weighing that as an option for him moving forward, as he feels really comfortable about his commitment to Florida State, but he did take that visit to Gainesville. I was told it was only for a few hours, essentially 3, and it was basically him and his mom were vacationing, and his family were vacationing in Orlando on spring break, and on their way back up to South Georgia, they stopped in Gainesville, and that's kind of what, why he ended up taking that visit. Stayed for a few hours on campus. If he's going to flip anywhere, I don't think it's going to be UF. I think it'd probably be, Georgia or something like that.
Yeah.
But for right now, I still feel very comfortable about FSU's standing with Cam Davis, and I think it's going to be big to get him around, Kromenhoek and the rest of the commits and stuff that'll be on campus this weekend. And, obviously FSU staff will try and put the finishing touches on that recruitment and try and get him to shut things down. But yeah, I want to start with him because he's obviously, I think, FSU's number 1 or number 2 highest ranked recruit in their Tribe 24 class.
So I'll start the bidding with Dylan Stevenson, Miami Columbus edge. Very important for FSU to hit on an edge from the high school ranks this year. He's one of the better ones in the state. Him and LJ McCray are probably the 2 that FSU is most involved with within the state that are very important to him. Very different body types than those 2 young men. McCray told me as of this morning he's not planning to come, but Stevenson is expected in, has previously told us he is coming in. He's been here a lot. He's a smart kid. He's a sharp kid. He's a hard worker, high ceiling kid, good body type, real good athleticism. He's kind of dude I think FSU has to hit on.
All right, Zach, back to you.
Yeah, I'm going to go. Can I bring up 2 because they're in the same position group?
Look at Zach cheating out here,
sure.
cheating in the streets.
They're both very important. I'll start with offensive linemen. Modesto Christian, 4-star offensive lineman. Manasi, I'm going to butcher this name.
You asked for this.
Yeah, Manasseh Ititi. He's originally from the Congo. He now lives in California, and he's a national offensive line recruit, and Florida State really likes him. I did a full story with him actually this week, kind of previewing his visit to Florida State's campus this weekend, and he had great things to say. He's never been on campus at FSU before, but he has really great relationships with Derek Ray, the general manager at Florida State, who has connections to that area in California, and then Alex Atkins, obviously FSU's offensive line coach, has a really good relationship with ETT and his family. And, I think going into this visit, FSU's already close to the top of his recruitment. And talking to some people around ETT's recruitment, it sounds like FSU has a really good shot to be in this for the long run. And I think that's pretty noteworthy for a guy that's, obviously living in the West Coast right now, but he's seriously considering schools down here. The other school that's up there for him is Miami. He wants to get to Auburn soon as well. So you can go check out the full update where he talks about kind of his relationship with the coaching staff and where things stand in his recruitment right now. And obviously we'll catch up with him after this weekend. The other offensive lineman who has been trending to Florida State for it seems like months or even a year now is Clearwater Academy International 4-star Jason Zandamela. He's an interior guy, 6'3", 285, a guy that's really bumped up the rankings on 24/7 Sports. He now sits within the top 100. He's number 80 overall and the number 2 interior offensive lineman in the country. Both of his 24/7 Sports crystal balls read garnet and gold via Steve Wiltfong and Mr. Crystal Ball Knee himself. But yeah, FSU gets him back on campus after getting him in for Legacy Weekend in March. He's a guy that FSU is probably going to land at some point, whether that's sooner or later, I don't know. I think he probably wants to wait until July because that's, the decision timeline he's laid out before. He wants to take some officials in June.
Zach, real quick, sorry, didn't he get Georgia offer recently?
Yes, he got a Georgia offer recently. He's a guy that's definitely his recruitment's taken, a stock up. It's kind of skyrocketed this year. He's got USC, Stanford, Georgia, UF, like a lot of these schools have come in recently, and Florida State's kind of been in this for a while. They really started recruiting him via another recruitment, and that was obviously Lucas Simmons, his former teammate and current true freshman offensive lineman. They both played together at Clearwater Academy International. FSU was second to offer Jason Zandamela after Temple, and FSU's just kind of been that consistent school throughout, and I think that'll probably pay off.
All right, since Zach cheated, I'm going to cheat. Instead of taking 2, I'm going to take 4. I'm going to take all the athletes. All right, I'll make it quick. So there's 4 athletes in the 2024 class that are expected in. BJ Gibson, who FSU views as a wide receiver, South Georgia kid. I think this is visit number 6 for him, former Tennessee baseball commitment. Good old follow to visits. If he's taken 6, there's a reason for it. He likes FSU a great deal. Talented kid, could play both sports. Staying on the offensive side of the athlete category, Amir Jackson from Portal, Georgia. I mean, FSU is the kings of the portal, so keep it going. Amir Jackson's a tight end type, very athletic kid. If you watch Chris Thompson's interview yesterday, he talks about tight ends that you can flex out versus guys you can put in line, and the best thing in the world is guys who can do all of it. I think Amir Jackson at this point in his career is more of a flex out guy, but very talented athlete, very good player, a kid that's trended up tremendously in 2023 as far as getting offers and getting more interest, and that will probably continue as the spring eval period comes about. Quickly flipping to the defensive side of ball, 2 athletes, both defensive back types. Shalil Cummings from Stark Bradford, first kid that Mike Norvell went to see when he hopped on the helicopter back there in January. Very talented athlete, been here multiple times. I think this will be visit number 3 already of this year, and maybe 4 or 5 total in his recruitment. And then Ricky Knight, personal favorite. We love throwing around South Florida dog. That kid's one, like without a shadow of doubt. I love his mentality. Every single time he talks about football in any kind of capacity, he mentions competitiveness, competition, competing. I love his makeup, and I think he's a hell of a player on film. Both of them coming in. Those are 4 guys that, as you're looking to build a class with versatility, athleticism, different body types, different abilities, and the right kind of DNA, I think all of those guys kind of are equipped with some of it. So, yeah, I just wanted to grab 4 before Zach went and took 2 more this time. So I was basically snake drafting it.
It's not a draft, guys. It's supposed to be a top. No, we have to get out of here.
Wait, there's one more I want to note.
Yeah, that's supposed to be the 5th one. We're supposed to end it with 5. That's where we're supposed to be.
2025 class, there's a linebacker, a 5-star that's committed to Georgia, who'll be back on campus this weekend, and that's Jaden Perlott. He was at Legacy Weekend and basically told me afterwards that if any school has a chance to flip him from UGA, it's FSU. It's a guy that has been recruited by FSU staff since he was in the 8th grade, he said. They've really been that consistent program with him throughout. And I really think he has a great relationship with Adam Fuller, Mike Norvell, Randy Shannon, a number of FSU's coaches. Yes, I said Randy Shannon. Stop hating. But yeah, FSU's doing a great job with him. Obviously, he's a 2025, so he's got a while. But I think if any school, like he said, has a shot to flip him, it's Florida State.
Very nice, concise list, guys. That was excellent. Let's play some Buyer Sonone, sponsored by
the Turner Group.
And then we'll get out of here and let the X's and O's guys take us home. All right. Buyer Sonone, sponsored by the Turner Group. If you want to buy or sell your home, or even if you're considering it, right? Because I know it's a lot to weigh and to think about and to take that leap into getting into the market. If you're in the state of Florida, cannot recommend enough the Turner Group. Colin Turner, Amy Turner, husband and wife team, FSU alum. They are relentless workers. I know that just in talking to Colin and seeing how busy he is and how constantly he is trying to help close deals and make things happen. They are very, very detail oriented, and most importantly, like good people who are FSU alum, and you have a chance to help out fellow FSU fans. If you are about to enter the market for buying or selling a home and you don't know where to start, I would really recommend that you reach out to Colin Turner at the Turner Group. You can reach him at 407-403-8546. Email him at getstarted@theturnergroup. Again, state of Florida, they can help you throughout the entire state. He's based more in the Central Florida area. We'll do more hands-on work there. But if you're looking to even get started moving into the state, moving somewhere within the state, give him a call. He can help you figure out like who the right person to talk to in your specific area is. All right, let's get into it. Buy or Sonone. 2+ commitments this weekend. Now, Chris, 2+ means 2 or more. Just
well, if we're counting Lil Wayne McCoy, then I'll go yes. If we're not, then I'll go push.
Okay.
Thursday is not
I guess Sonone. No, Sonone, because it would only be 2, not 2+.
Thursday is not the weekend, Chris.
Some people it is. It was in college.
Oh my God. Going home yesterday was a total shit show because of how many college kids were like around campus about to go out and start partying. So we were trying to get off of campus yesterday. So yeah, feel that. They were going to head into purgatory, I think.
Poor you.
It was an inconvenience to me.
I wish you had asked this yesterday, but that wouldn't have counted because Thursday is not the weekend.
Yesterday.
But I'll buy.
Okay.
They have to hit 2, right?
No, 2+.
Oh my God.
No, Chris.
2+.
How many times do you have to explain this to him?
This is feeling like the original format of the podcast where I was
just set the number at 2 if we're doing more, less, or push. Buy or
Sonone or push. Sponsored by the Turner Group.
I'm buying 2.
I think when we wake up Monday, FSU will have 3 new commitments since the beginning of Thursday. There, I said it. That's as concise as I can be.
Sorry, Colin. Buy or Sonone, Rodney Hill cements his status as the king of the spring this weekend at the showcase. I mean, since I'll
Sonone it because I think that there's a potential of a defensive player getting a high amount of sacks in quotations in the showcase. So I'm leaning towards Patrick Payton here. That's what I'm talking about.
Okay, he's not a candidate for it because he's not coming like as a low radar guy. He was the rookie of the year in the conference last season, Chris, and that was noted.
You and your rules. I am.
You and your rules.
Chris is wearing a tie-dye shirt.
I'm buying that.
He doesn't have time for this nuance.
Rodney's got a chip on his shoulder.
Oh, so you're buying it?
Yeah. He knows where he's at in the rankings. He doesn't want to slip.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he's gonna prove why he's gonna make the all ASS team or whatever, all Sonone
squad. Yeah, that's an important one too. God, we offer so much great content for you guys at Knowles 24/7. You really should subscribe. Buy or Sonone. Oh, hey, here's something. The transfer portal starts on Saturday. The spring window, which is only 15 days compared to what the December winter window was 45 days of madness. It is only 15 days for guys to basically get out of their current team, enter the transfer portal, hit the market. Feedback I've gotten has been kind of varied on whether we're expecting for it to be a robust transfer market. Some interesting dynamics there. I think NIL playing just a huge role nationally will probably determine whether guys stay put or if they're able to look at opportunities elsewhere.
Not renegotiation season.
Yeah, not just Florida State, but just more from a national standpoint. With that little nuance there going a little further into it, SEC has an interesting restriction that I think will create a dynamic here in the transfer portal that I wasn't really even considering until a day or two ago. SEC players basically cannot transfer to other SEC schools during this window. That's already passed the opportunity to. So if you're an SEC school and you're looking to add depth, find a starter out of position group that just hasn't looked good this spring, you're going to be very aggressive back channeling ACC schools, Big 12 schools, programs that just generally will not have more money than you because you can't go and pillage other SEC players. Now, same time, if you're an SEC player wanting to transfer, you can get an SEC caliber player out of the portal if you're in these other conferences, right? But I think that'll add a dynamic that'll create some really extreme like negotiations and pricing for some players at these other conferences to potentially leave their schools or be retained by it. But it'll be interesting. So anyways, with that in mind, Florida State is about 89 to 90 scholarship players that we have projected for the start of the 2023 season. Not all of them are on the roster now, but most of them are. I think they have 80 scholarship guys. We get to 89, 90 is a rough estimate, including Destin Hill. If we do that, it's about 90. So you have to lose at least 5 to get to 85-man limit. Let's put that as the number. So I will throw this to you guys. By or Sonone, FSU loses at least 7 players to the transfer portal. I was going to say 7 plus, Chris, but I changed it for you. 7 players at least.
I appreciate that.
For the transfer portal, by or Sonone.
I'm gonna buy that. I feel like it's gotta happen, right? Like they gotta not only get under the 85, but if they want to add some pieces to their roster at some positions of need, maybe safety, maybe edge, maybe a few other positions, like they got to get a few under to be able to create room for that. So I'm gonna buy that.
Yeah, I feel like 7's a great number. Can I take the or?
Push.
I do. I really feel like 7 is the magic number. That would basically get them 2 under. I don't think they're going to be in the game for much more than 2, personally. You know, maybe a safety, maybe an edge, or best available type. So, yeah. I feel like it's right around 7.
Yeah, I'll buy the over on it. I think it'd be closer to 8 than it would be to 6. I think 6 is cutting it pretty close. I know people want us to name names. I don't feel super comfortable doing that. It's a low upside proposition for us.
You wrote a piece this morning about attrition. I thought it was very well handled. Kind of talked about positions where obviously the depth is just abundant and clear, or guys have kind of fallen through the cracks, for lack of a better term. And it's commonsensical while not saying get the heck out of my program.
Yep. That's what we follow trends. I've said that before in this episode. Like we just look at where the numbers are and try to make sense of it. And Josh Newberg is rolling in his, he's not his grave because he is alive and well. But me counting the numbers here, the numbers will work out. I'm not worried about them getting under the 85-man limit. It's going to be a matter of like how much flexibility you have to add pieces. Before we get out of here, guys, I'm going to write later today or first thing in the morning on Saturday a kind of a primer on what position groups. Primer.
Man, can't say his name. He doesn't like me because I won't buy or Sonone, but like he can't talk, so it all balances out in the end.
What position groups? I'm gonna try to just put down 5. This is my like 3rd coffee of the day, and this is like espresso shot in here. So that's what's happening. It's kicking it in full gear. If we get into 5 players or 5 position groups where FSU could potentially add in the transfer portal where we think they'll look if it's a good market, what are the position groups? I think safety you both mentioned. That's probably a good starting point. Is that where we want to start? Is saying that's probably the most assured position group?
Yeah, I feel like they have 3 real good ones, and you might want one more. Nobody loved Pack in the sense of like thinking he was all world, but he was super reliable. He took the snaps when you had to have him take the snaps. I think they need a guy who kind of can fill that role, if nothing else.
Yeah, I doubt they would take someone. Like they got to get someone a little bit more. Like,
well, I think they would want somebody better. I'm just saying they need, between the concern of injury and inexperience. Like I love Conrad Hussey. I've been very much on record about that. I think Edwin Joseph's another guy who can help them at safety, but they're not here till end of May.
Yeah.
So, I don't know how comfortable you are with plugging them right in. I feel like there might need to be a bridge guy in between the current group you have and the guys coming in.
Dude, this SEC, I just want to talk about this SEC rule. Does this not benefit FSU like a crazy amount? Think about all the recruitments they had to battle in the portal in December, and how many SEC schools were involved, right?
Gilbert Edmond, Jaheim Bell,
Ventrell
Fentrell
Cypress.
Cypress,
I'm trying to think of others.
Kyle Morlock.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, most of the big-time ones. I think everyone other than Daryl Jackson, who was Braden Fisk
Braden
was
Fisk was like USC, Notre Dame.
Yeah. But yeah, most. It helps them unless SEC schools start coming for their players and willing to
which
throw.
is bound to happen.
I mean, again, the SEC can't pull from the SEC. So they are going to look at the most SEC-ish programs out there. That is Florida State and Clemson, lesser extent, Miami. It's going to be UCF. It's going to be some of the Houston, SMU type of schools. Like that's where that radius is probably going to extend to. I doubt that they go into the Big Ten just because Big Ten probably has the resources, generally speaking, program to program. But FSU's in good shape if that's what ends up happening. But no, I will push back on a little bit of a notion, Zach, that I think it's a sure good thing for Florida State. It's going to be so case by case.
Yeah. I meant more so for like targeting players. But yeah, it could be a potential issue if the SEC schools come, trying to, I don't want to say tamper, but back channel your players, which is possible and definitely probable to happen, I think, because of how desperate a lot of these SEC schools are going to be to add players at certain positions. And obviously they can't do it in the top conference. So they're going to move to, like you said, other programs that are on that caliber.
All right, let's go to just a couple more positions where we think they could. I would say defensive end. If you're able to get a situational like pass rusher and you have the scholarship room to do it, I think that's a position group that if you have luxury and flexibility to, you always invest in. That and cornerback. Even though they feel pretty good at cornerback, I think those are the two positions on defense that you feel like you could always invest extra in another scholarship in. So I'll throw those two out there. So that's three positions. What else are we looking at potentially if we're going to try to get to five?
I think the only one on offense for me would be receiver.
Punt returner.
Punt returner and kick returner maybe, but more so punt returner because of Micah Pittman. But I think, specialists would be good in that aspect. And maybe a guy that can contribute as a receiver as well, because obviously, maybe you get a slot type or something like that with Micah Pittman's injury. We don't know the timetable for his return. He said possibly he'll get back this season, but he's not sure. So I guess that would be the one on offense / special teams that makes the most sense with Micah Pittman's absence.
Okay. I think I would agree with that. I don't think you had a running back. I don't think
offensive line. No, I mean, unless there's like a best available type.
Unless Amarius Mims enters the transfer portal again. Happy anniversary, guys. That was fun.
Oh, was it fun?
You forgot our anniversary. It was yesterday.
Strawberry! Inside joke. No quarterback. Even if you lose, I don't think they'll lose a quarterback this spring, but if you do, you roll into the season with 3. Maybe linebacker ever getting to 5. Like if you find a guy who would not just a depth piece, but someone who would legitimately push as a starter and you're willing to kind of rock the boat there. I think Kalen DeLoach has had a really good spring, and especially the last week or two. He's been on point. He was great yesterday in Tuesday's practice. But yeah, if you want to say, hey, we have a potential like NFL a unique skill set, something like this guy's like 230 pounds, can fly around. If that presents itself to you, maybe. Byron Vaughns is an edge rusher. Byron Vaughns, no matter what, flexible, bendy as hell, edge rusher from Utah State. That would be a guy who I would be thrilled with for Florida State to add because he'd be a great situational pass rusher.
General manager Brendan Sonone would draft him.
I feel like if Vaughns happened, Sonone would run around like like he just won a national title and was looking for somebody to hug on the court kind of guy. Which is how I kind of felt yesterday when McCoy committed.
You were that excited?
Not excited. I was more trying to make sure we were like getting the ball rolling on doing what we needed to do.
Yeah. So Chris and Zach were going to talk to him, to McCoy. I almost said Byron Vaughns. I'm trying to will it into existence. And Dane and I were working on a practice report, and all of a sudden Chris comes scurrying over. It's like, he committed. He committed. Can you get it up? And I didn't even know who you guys were trying to talk to. So
I didn't say, can you get it up? I told you get it up. Like I was demanding, very managerial like.
He knows what he wants.
All right. I want to get out of here. I'm done with this episode. This has not been fun. Thank you for those watching on YouTube, assuming that I remember to actually post it this time. And for those listening to the podcast, taking a quick break. I don't even think it's a commercial break. It's just going to be like the audio is going to transition over, and you'll hear the sultry, smooth tones of Trey Rowland, Coach AB, and Kev Little as they preview the spring showcase. Bye.
Bye. Sonone.
Bye.
Ah.